Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Willie Comic Roundup. We've got a decently sized haul, so let's get started. We'll kick things off with X-Force number 40. Where we left off, while Sage was trying to rebuild X-Force after everything Beast had done before going rogue, and obviously in going rogue as well. Like I said, Sage was attempting to rebuild the team, to rebuild the roster, but Quentin Quire, old and suddenly appeared. No longer let's say, early 20s, no longer looking like a kid in his early 20s, but rather a very, very old man, still with his pink hair, emerged from a time portal. So we begin where we left off, and Quentin explains to the mutants present that they're all doomed. But he makes some cracks about how how it seems like the roster is now basically X-Force's greatest hits. But he explains that he needs the team to come with him, but something grabs Omega Red from his portal, and so the team jumps through. Deadpool also arrives elsewhere. When they arrive in the future, Colossus collapses and deals with a bit of a headache, which everyone discounts as just, time travel messes with you. There's a text page that explains that what's happened is the Chronicler, Mikhail's lackey, that's basically writing, that's basically it's to a degree controlling Colossus, has lost contact with him. But they find Omega Red being attacked by Beast Priests. Domino and Wolverine attempt to save him, but to no avail. And Quentin brings him before his resistance against Beast, which includes a disembodied head of Wolverine. Wolverine head in a jar. It basically just says "snicked" over and over again. So it got claws, but yeah, it just says "snicked." But the Beast Priest put Omega on an altar, and God Beast attacks him. We get a write-up on what happened with Quentin and Cerebrax. When Kid Omega plunged into the heart of Cerebrax and destroyed with a sonic blast, the two experienced a convergence, and Quentin found himself both rattled and entranced. Omega level mutant who always felt like he belonged in the shadow of Jean Grey, but with the sudden access to the timeline, he saw his potential for true greatness. In the hands of Omega, Cerebrax would be a tool, a weapon. It was a terrible glimpse of the future, and extricated himself from the present to investigate further the threats that awaited mutant kind. The body and mind of Kid Omega thereafter vanished from the present, all traces of him wiped from the cradles, because he did not wish to be replicated in his absence. There's not enough room in the world for more than one Quentin Quire, after all. But it's very much this is very ragtag, and Quentin explains that he's getting tired. But there's something important he needed to tell them, but, well, you forgot. Attacking the building, well, Colossus and Wolverine go for the old classic, the fastball special. This takes on the Beast Priests, and turns out that the God of all mutants ate Omega Red. And Omega Red proved to be not easily digested. However, Quentin explains that, well, Beast kind of sees a timeline with additional copies can be awakened when necessary. So, killing one doesn't really do much good. And we end with an image of what appears to be a combined of a Nimrod in blue with white highlights. So that's where the issue ends. So, okay, all right, interesting. It's good to see Quentin back, and well, see where the art goes. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got X-Men number 22. Where we left off, yeah, she was going sideways for the X-Men fairly often. They were dealing with the Brood, and Jean and Scott had a bit of a falling out. So we opened at the treehouse. One member of Horde Culture meets with a Mega Sentinel, and it's explained that Mega Sentinel notes that she's using the Krakoan drugs, namely the drugs of the mind. But Omega Sentinel states that she may want to make sure that she's getting strictly organic Krakoan meds at this point, because there's a Trojan horse inside them. Putting the blame on mutant kind for that, but she's sharing Horde Culture's research into the mutant gateways. We then get another version of the Orcus Protocol text page, but this time with nothing redacted, and we see who heads up the direct strategies as well as oblique strategies. Direct strategies are research and development headed up by Dr. Leah Gregor, infrastructure and influence currently headed up by Fei Long, operations and offense now headed up by MODOK, oblique strategies, culture and narrative headed up by Judas Traveler, sociology and modeling headed up by Moira McTaggart, and human resources headed up by Dr. Stasis, all under the central column of Dr. Devo, Dr. Killian Devo. So, but yes, it turns out that a large amount of Krakoan drugs have been modified by secretly modified by Orcus. MODOK activates a pulse, and an older man who had just taken some of the drugs of the mind, well, launched himself at the window of his apartment, head first, until he shattered the glass and fell to his death. And it's explained that if Orcus were to do a less localized version of pulse use of the energy wavelengths, well, there'd be a large uptick in the purchase of mops. Turns out there are also pop-up clinics in various cities, including Chicago, of Orcus basically saying, "Hey, yeah, we'll basically turn off your X gene." A man named Woofer, a mutant named Woofer, shows up, saying, "Yeah, sure, let's do this." Signs the paperwork, goes in, but when he sees the inside, he changes his mind and tries to leave, but dragged back in. However, Cyclops, Firestar, and Forge show up. Forge uses yet another toy he's been working on. It's gum, but it expands. And one of the Orcus people attacks is quite effective, dealing a serious hit to managing to do a decent amount of decent hit to Cyclops as well as Forge. It's a machine. Firestar lets loose on it, and it's revealed that it's a Sentinel built around the skeleton of Wolverine. Everyone gets evacuated, and Firestar destroys the pop-up clinic, and barely stops the Wolverine Sentinel from killing her. And having a smart moment, she grabs the discarded skeleton. There's a write-up explaining that apparently Forge has is requesting some stage time at Hellfire Gala, and explaining also that he's been kind of holding back a little. He doesn't want to, kind of half-assing what he does for Krakoa. Not that, it's basically not wanting to be at the heart of the threat assessment talks that go on in pretty much every other country in the world. So, the idea is to, he has the idea of giving tree houses to the world freely. Without gates, obviously, but tree houses that can end homelessness, rather quickly. Have treehouse biomes ready for disaster relief. A tornado, a hurricane, or a tsunami blows through an area, and that gets one gets deployed. You've got shelter and with the capability of growing food. But he also says that if if Emma is agreeable to this, well, by all means, she should send Jimbo Carnation his way to make his outfit for the gala. Otherwise, he's going to show up in a polo shirt and jean shorts. But Forge does ask Cyclops a question. How many times Logan's died and they haven't recovered his skeleton? We already know quite a bit, quite a few. And Orcus is working on, making another one of these Wolverine Sentinels, basically. And that is where the issue ends. We're seeing a lot of the. We are seeing returns of various Orcus, bits and pieces of Orcus we've seen over the course of the Krakoan era, including the PhD apes, who are the ones working on making basically turning all the various Wolverine skeletons into Sentinels, which there was a large plot point about this a while back, how to stop Nimrod from going online, and then just to stop Nimrod in general, members of X-Force were being sent through constantly, sent through the gate to the Soul Forge to stop, to basically be a monkey wrench, and they died each time, and that was kind of how. Orcus realized, hey, we're killing these mutants each time they show up. But why is it that we had to do it more than once with the same mutants? And we saw that Orcus had a collection of skeletons of Wolverine, a rather large collection at that point. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Danny Ketch Ghost Rider #1. So this is set way back in the early days of the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider run from the 90s, bringing back writer Howard Mackey, who was apparently wrote the entire run and did it. And man, it's nice to see him back writing Ghost Rider. So at Cypress Hill Cemetery, Ghost Rider is fighting what appears to be a demon. And brings the demon close enough and hits him with a penance stare. And reverts to a kid. But the cops were there, and so Danny rides off, and a shadowy figure watches from a distance. Explaining that, apologizing to his benefactor. His benefactor wants Ghost Rider. But still, there are others, so yeah, get them too. We get a recounting of Danny becoming Ghost Rider, but he notices something on the medallion. There's a scratch. What was new? Elsewhere, henchman of a mob figure by the name of Jimmy Six is being beaten up by a couple other guys. Jimmy Six is related to Don Fortunato, and he teaches a lesson of the guys roughing up his henchperson. And the shadowy figure arrives afterwards to permit the two to get revenge. Danny returns home and finds Johnny there. They go out. They have a drink, away from the Ketch household, but sirens alert them to the fact that they're needed. The two henchmen have been merged into one two-headed being, going after Jimmy Six. Six's enforcement having no effect on him. Cops are there. Stacey Dolan, Danny Ketch's at the time on-off girlfriend. Well, she goes to intervene, or she's there and Danny turns into Ghost Rider, hits the two brothers with the penance stare. Eventually, that has to wear him down a bit. And cops pull their guns on Blaze and Ghost Rider, and they kind of say, "Yeah, no, we're out." But we discover that the brokers. Meanwhile, the broker reclaims the two henchmen who are brought before the broker's boss, who appears to be, if I remember, the Morlocks. And we have a flashback to the forging of the Medallion of Power. And somehow it got chipped. And this particular Morlock found a shard of it. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting starts, as I recall, this is just a miniseries, but definitely one I'll be eagerly looking forward to on a monthly basis, that's for sure. Especially with Danny coming back in pages of the current Ghost Rider book. Moving on, though, to our last book, we've got the Hulk Annual. So, doesn't pick up after any. This isn't like a way of wrapping up any loose threads from the last Hulk run. A documentary crew, Project Viridian, is trying to get documentary footage of the Hulk. We get some just meeting the crew, and eventually, yes, they do run into the Hulk. Talking to an old teacher of Bruce Banner, and replaying footage of some of the Hulk's appearances, talking to others about him, and breaking into a gamma fracking site. But Hulk shows up, facing off against a giant monster. One of the members of the documentary crew is killed. The giant monster also is under the control of apparently the Mole Man. But as I said, one of the members of the crew is killed, and we end with a funeral. The various members of the documentary crew are still recovering from their own injuries as well. And footage shows that apparently Bruce Banner is also at the funeral. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting story, and I can't... Yeah, it makes perfect sense that there would be, in the Marvel Universe, there would be Hulk chasers. I mean, the real world has storm chasers. So, in fact, one of the members of Project Viridian is a former storm chaser. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. First off, before the full sign-off, I'd like to do a shout-out to Patreon patron Xander Lee. Thanks for your... thank you for helping keep this... Helping to, Thanks for your patronage. Anyways, this is... as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to to the giveaway launch video, as well as my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.